Welcome to this edition of Facebook Live. We're going through the fundamental movement patterns. We've talked about squatting and the importance of squatting and hinging, bending and rotation as it relates to our clients, especially our older clients. When we lose the ability, these abilities to squat, bend, rotate, hinge, which is basically a squat and bending pattern, push pull, as well as walk and carry, we lose function in everyday life. And then when we lose function or functional capacity, we lose independence. And I have two clients right now around my age in their 50s. So both of them are struggling with older parents and these exact issues. And if you have older parents, then you know many of your parents suffer from the same thing, with just fundamental patterns of everyday life. And that obviously impacts their independence, their quality of life, and things that they need to, want to, and even doing those things that they love to do. And then once that happens, their quality of life just plummets. So we're just sharing with you the strategies that we use with our own clients, the foundation of how we train our clients. So today we'll discuss the scapular mechanics or the shoulder mechanics as it relates to pushing and pulling patterns. How we teach scapular control is a bit different. Again, not completely different, but one of the concepts we teach our clients is the idea of creating width through the shoulders. Most of the industry, the way I was taught many years ago, 25 plus years ago, holy cow, getting so old here, we were taught to retract and depress. And if you look in the screen here, obviously you're looking in the screen because you're looking at me, you see the big slope of my shoulders when I retract and depress. And they tell us to push and pull from there. And we have to retract before we do all our exercises. Now, if you are like this and then you retract and depress and you end up like this, well, that's a decent cue. Your cueing is only as good as your client's ability to get into that most optimal position. Unfortunately, most of your clients don't get into a more optimal position by depressing and retracting and depressing. In fact, what it actually does is it compresses down on the brachial plexus, it compresses down on the first couple of ribs, so you impact not only the neurological function, because the brachial plexus and nerves coming out of the neck are going down to the upper extremity, but it's also impacting the, as I said, vascular structures as well. And it's also impacting your ability or their ability to breathe into the upper rib cage. And that is actually a driving factor for many shoulder issues. We've talked about that many times here on Facebook Live. We have lots of Facebook Live, I should say videos, recordings from Facebook Lives on our YouTube channel, which is Integrative Movement Institute. So go check those out. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us here as well. So today, let's talk about scapular mechanics. What we teach our clients, number one, is to be wide. So many times we're thinking about the collarbones, the clavicles going wide this direction. That's why they used to put shoulder pads in suit jackets. I don't know if they still do. I still think they do. So you look more wide. Regardless of your body type, they still want you to look wide and square. So you look narrow and thinner down here. And that's how our shoulders are set up. And that's when the scapula are in the right position, the shoulder blades are in the right position. That's how you should look. But again, when you have too much scapular depression and retraction, your shoulders end up getting very narrow. Pec minor, lats, pec major even, but it's really more pec minor and lats that will pull and adduct, pull that scapula in towards midline. And then it makes it very challenging for the individual to get their arms, get the shoulders back in the right position. So when we're training scapular control, or I should say shoulder control, which is basically scapular control, scapula on top of the thorax, we're teaching our clients how to be here and then learn how to push and pull from this position. So we're not teaching our clients to bring their shoulder blades down and back and lift their chest up. That's a very bodybuilder type of mentality, a gymnast-based mentality. And if you look at a lot of our clients that were gymnasts or bodybuilders in their former life, they have this exact posture. Again, if you have great mechanics, then yeah, this posture won't matter. This shoulder blade position doesn't matter as much. But if you are someone that struggles with chronic impingement, chronic shoulder problems, thoracic outlet problems, vascular issues, your arms going numb when you're sleeping, those are signs that you're getting too much depression and or retraction of a scapula. So we don't teach that for very many of our clients. So what we're teaching our clients, and I was just explaining this to a client this morning that I was working with chronic shoulder tightness, and now she's getting a little bit of impingement. But we're teaching them, I was teaching her, and we teach our clients that you want to really train to your ability to hold your shoulder blade in the right position. So basically, when we're teaching our client to do a bicep curl, for example, we're teaching them to hold this position. So a bicep curl for us, yeah, it's training their arms and they feel good, and it's awesome to train bicep curls and fun exercises like that. But what I'm really training them to do is maintain the scapula, that isometric position of the scapula. So they're able to control the scapula and not train to just the strength of their arms. Train to your strength, your ability to stabilize and hold a position. Then you teach them how to move out of that position. And that's allowed us to be very successful with our clients with rotator cuff impingement and thoracic outlet and labral tears and chronic neck issues and chronic upper back issues related to non-optimal, suboptimal control of the scapula and or rib cage and or neck. Now, what about pulling patterns? Again, this changes a little bit, or we change a little bit of how we teach this pattern related to a lot of individuals as well. You'll see a lot of people when they're doing a horizontal row, for example, they're allowing the scapula to go way into protraction and then way into retraction. So protract, retract. And if your client has optimal mechanics, no issues, there's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, again, if you're working with older clients, if you're working with clients with chronic neck, upper back, or shoulder issues, that's not a great strategy. It's not teaching them actually how to stabilize the scapula and teach the scapula to wrap. When we talk about wrapping, it's allowing the scapula to move into protraction, but stay in that upward rotated position, and then come back into retraction and still stay in relative upward rotation. This is the opposite. The forward shoulder is that downward rotated position. So don't worry about the words. It's the position. We want to teach our clients to be here, which is upward rotation and posterior tilt. Don't worry about the words. As I row, I'm rowing myself into that position. So again, it's that wide shoulder position. So we're teaching our client to lower the weight because most of our clients aren't going to be able to use the same weight, and that's very humbling. I'm humbled all the time in the gym when I'm trying to do things right. And then you want to row and then maintain that nice scapular control, the nice open shoulder position. So when I'm rowing, regardless of the resistance, I shouldn't feel a lot of downward pull this direction. That means I'm retracting and, or I should say, depressing too much. I'm depressing down too much if you start to feel a lot of tension here in the pec minor. Keep the shoulder open so you're teaching the client to row and maintain shoulder position through that resistance. Okay? Now, pushing patterns are more challenging, and this is usually the last way, or the last patterns we're teaching our clients with shoulder problems. Because what we want to teach our client, again, is the idea of wrapping the scapula, staying in an upward rotation and posterior tilt. Again, just look at the position, don't worry about the words. So when I'm pushing out, so when I'm pushing the resistance out, I'm going up at a slight angle, and the scapula stays nice and snug against the rib cage. So that's basically the position you want to train for overhead pressing, overhead pulling, push-ups, planking. That's why so many people have shoulder problems and neck problems and wrist problems associated with planking. I just had a client the other day saying, oh man, my wrist hurts so bad from all the planks we did in yoga. I'm like, yeah, because you don't have great shoulder control. It's not your wrist that are the problem. It's your scapular and thoracic control. So we had to teach her how to do that. So again, we come into our split stance position. Nice long spine, rib cage stacked above the pelvis. And now we're going to press out in upward rotation, posterior tilt, that slight angle upwards. And then we're going to control that eccentric control, the ability to hold the shoulder in this position as I bring the resistance back and not allow that shoulder to come back and just crash back. So I'll turn around so you can see it. So I want to push out, keep upward rotation and posterior tilt. So again, don't worry about the words, just look at the position. And then when I come back, allow the scapula to stay stable and not just crash back into excessive and uncontrolled retraction. So that's how we teach our clients to do pushing and pulling patterns with scapular control, reinforcing the position we want of the scapula. That's how you get rid of so much chronic impingement issues, stabilize the scapula for clients that have labral tears, help clients have thoracic outlet, help clients with chronic neck tension, because again, a lot of clients are stabilizing their shoulder blade through their neck. Hence the reason when they pull, they do a bicep curl, the shoulder's going into this position here. So it's getting the shoulder to be back here. And for many of our clients, limiting how far the elbow goes back during the rows, even during their presses, not to allow the shoulder to come back into this position until they developed a more optimal strategy where they're able to control larger ranges of motion, because optimally we want to have our clients control greater ranges of motion. Once our client has better control, again, this is down the road, Then we're teaching them to do more dynamic motion, where now I'm going to have them start rotating and using the scapula or the shoulder complex along with thoracic rotation, because that's how it functions in everyday life. We're walking, we're throwing a ball, whatever, playing pickleball, doing some sport. We're teaching, or we're using the shoulder complex along with that thoracopubic cylinder. So we want to teach it how to integrate. If we're doing a pushing pattern, we're winding up these oblique chains and using these oblique chains, so that way we're incorporating the functional use of the scapular control or the shoulder control that we've been training in a more isolated position. But these patterns, independent of training them individually, you rarely improve shoulder function, especially for those clients that are struggling with chronic issues, as we discussed. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to put them below this post. And next time we'll talk more vertical pushing patterns, just because this is great for your pulling and pushing more horizontal patterns. But what about vertical patterns? Because something funny happens for a lot of our clients with vertical pushing and pulling patterns. So this is Dr. Evan Osar with Integrative Movement Insider. Thanks again for being part of our community. Thanks for all you do for your communities, for being the light for them, for being that resource of truth, for honesty and integrity, and helping your clients, and through that, attracting more individuals that need, want, and will pay you for your expertise. So anything we can do to help you do that, please reach out, let us know, and make it a great Sunday, make it a great start to your week, and we'll see you next time at Integrative Movement Insider. Take care. Hello, Sue Gleason. Hello, Tanya Holman. Oh, good to see you. And my boy, Pete. Good to see you, my brother. Be good. Happy Sunday.